Savoring and serving, experience the best of life.
Greetings, Marvin D. Rogers here, your friend and host of Savoring and Serving. I'm blessed to be on the breathtakingly beautiful campus of the Billy Graham Library in Charlotte, North Carolina. And today we're going to conclude our LCD series, A Picture of Our Lives Unfazed by Stress. So far, as a recap, we've learned how to live well with Rushion Thornton and Ashley King. And then we had some scintillating cultural therapy appointments with the silky smooth sounds of the band Mellow Groove, as well as the lovely Lady Bonilla. And I purposely saved for last the aspect of my lifestyle that I feel is most important in leveraging, encountering stress and anxiety in life, and that is dialing in spiritually. So today, the Savoring and Serving crew has the privilege of visiting with therapist/counselor Zoi Saliga. Zoi is fun, charismatic, and powerful, and we hope through our conversation that we are able to articulate our sincerest conviction and an encouragement to you that ultimately our soul's peace and our life's direction are harnessed by a lifestyle of daily prayer and reflection. Let's go visit with Zoi. Miss Zoi Saliga. Now, did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes, you did.
Wonderful. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Zoe means life in Greek.
Yes, it does.
I've always thought that was the most beautiful name. Wonderful. Well, let me ask you, how are you feeling today? How is life, Zoe?
Life is good. It's a little bit stressful for me also. Today we are taking a holiday on Wednesday with my family for about 2 weeks. So we have some last minute things to do and some stress this morning, but made it here and ready to talk about stress.
Yes, I'm so glad that you're here, and thank you so much for your willingness to come on Savoring and Serving and to share your rich perspectives. And it is pretty ironic that you had a stressful morning in light of the fact that we're going to be talking about stress today. Wonderful. Now, I understand you are a family counselor, you are a mom, you are a wife, and you're also a world traveler. Tell me about some of your travels and some of the places that you've lived throughout your life.
I was born and raised in Montreal, Canada. Then I moved to Boston.
Wow.
Got married. My husband and myself moved down here to Charlotte about 7 years ago, I believe. And we have, in the past year and a half, fostered 3 siblings, 3 children,
Wow.
and we're in the process of adopting them. So, have moved from the north to the south, and now we're a complete family, an intact family, I should say.
Wow, foster children, and are they local foster children?
They're actually from South Carolina.
Wow, that's where I'm from, actually.
Wonderful.
Amazing. That's wonderful. Now, I also read on your bio that you are trilingual.
Yes, I am.
What languages do you speak?
Greek. I am of Greek descent, and I was born in Montreal, Quebec, Canada.
Wow.
So French and
Yes.
of course English.
Canadian French, right?
Canadian French, oui. Quebecois French.
Yes. Is there a huge difference
There's a bit of a difference
between Canadian French and then the French of France?
There is in the dialect. And interestingly enough, also I'm starting to learn a little bit of Spanish since having moved here to the South. Love the language.
It's a beautiful language.
It really
I
is.
feel blessed by virtue of the fact that I'm bilingual, English and Spanish. Now that's really, really fascinating. And I must confess to you, when I first saw your picture and I saw your name, Zoi Saliga, right away I thought that you were a Latina. How often do people ask you if you're Latina?
Very often. Interestingly enough, a few years ago, my husband and my mother and myself were traveling to Nicaragua to visit our friend who's a missionary there.
Yes.
And while at the Miami airport, I kept having people speak to me in Spanish, and I kept saying, I don't speak Spanish. And they would give me a look. And I thought, no, I'm not Spanish. I'm not of Spanish descent. So once we got to Nicaragua, I learned how to say, pardon, señor or señora, no hablo español, yo soy griega. And then they would say, oh, okay, on the way back, So it was really interesting the response I would get.
Well, muy bien. Your Spanish sounds excellent. And you strike me as a studious young lady, so I wouldn't be surprised if I run into you just months from now and you're going to say, Marvin, I speak 4 languages now.
Hola, Marvin, ¿cómo está?
Estoy bien.
Y tú, muy bien.
And Rosetta Stone has gotten so popular, and I hear so many people have been able to, learn and apprehend languages rather quickly through that program. And in this area, of course, we're in the Charlotte metropolitan area, and the Spanish population is just growing and burgeoning by leaps and bounds. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I've been doing the series on savoring and serving called LCD, A Picture of Our Lives Unfazed by Stress. And the reason I chose to tackle this topic from the onset is because on savoring and serving, we want to present touchstone topics that a myriad of people can relate to, regardless of your background, regardless of your demographic, regardless of your age or ethnicity. And I thought about the concept of stress. And as I said in my opening monologue on a previous show, if you're breathing oxygen, you know what stress is. And I have had people ask me many times, how do I manage stress? Because fortunately, even though I do go through stress as well, and I do have challenges in my own life, by God's grace, I've been able to manage it quite well. And when I would get that question, I started reflecting on my lifestyle that has allowed me to do so. And the L in the LCD is for living well. And so I had my fitness trainer, Rashawn, talk about that in previous shows, as well as the fitness king, Queen Ashley King. And the C is cultural therapy. I love music. I love to dance. And I've seen that when I'm out at concerts, be it classical music, rock, reggae, Christian, I just see a catharsis happening with so many people out there taking in the sounds, and it's just really speaking to their soul in so many ways. And dancing, oh my. I tell you, I have danced away a lot of blues, Zoe. However, the D in my life is the most important. Dialing in spiritually, my faith in God, my prayer life, my devotion, meditation, and reflection. And I was just amazed that in our first conversation with you being a certified professional family counselor, while you went through all the rigorous psychological training, you ultimately connect stress relief and peace through faith and spirituality. So let's start by asking, how long have you been practicing as a counselor?
I have been practicing as a counselor / therapist for a little over 15 years.
Amazing.
Prior to that, being that I was educated and I came from Montreal, I worked as a psychotherapist. So I've been basically doing it for, in total, about 20-something years.
Wow.
I'm giving my age away.
You must have started, when you were just a preteen.
Correct. I agree with you. Very, very young.
I believe it. So that's when you started, and I'm sure you've seen it all.
Correct.
And you've heard it all.
Yeah, and what I did later on in my career, I decided to make a shift when I became a Christian, so I decided to specialize in marriage and family therapy. And then moving down here, I was really, really blessed for Mrs. Ann Noonan, who started this office here in 1998. She hired me. And since then, I've been working exclusively as a Christian therapist.
Amazing.
Bible-based truth principles, bringing them to our patients and helping them not only heal from whatever issues is plaguing them and they're bringing to therapy, but guiding them into the ultimate source, which is our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautifully expressed. Now, I must ask you, just being a family counselor / therapist, when you have your remote control, you're at home, you're just relaxing, depressurizing, you're flipping through the channels, and you see some of these shows that are being splashed across the television screen that just glorify dysfunction, like the Real Housewives of Atlanta or a show like that. From your vantage point as a family counselor / therapist, what do you feel when you see what's on television these days?
I feel first and foremost, I don't see them as reality shows as much as I see them as unscripted shows, because I think it's made up. There's a lot of stuff that has been made up. And I find, in general, it's very seductive, and it's trying to sell us a lifestyle, I think, that's unattainable and incorrect. And therein comes a lot of the pressure and the stress to try to live our life like these housewives, or like, the television shows are telling us. So I find it completely wrong in terms of what is being told to us from Hollywood, for lack of a better word, how we are to live our lives. Hence comes the pressure then. The pressure to work hard and attain, make a lot of money, the pressure to live a certain lifestyle,
Right.
live in a certain house, drive several cars, own certain jewelry and things like that. Just material possessions, which really mean nothing
I think
in
the
the end.
slang word that kids use, they call that floss, the life of floss.
The life of floss. And it's
Yes.
very enslaving, though, unfortunately, because then it becomes very enslaving mentally, spiritually, and physically by adding too much stress and pressure on the self.
So you're telling me I shouldn't go and buy a Beamer?
And buy a Beamer. If, you know what? If it's within your budget and
Yes.
you're not going to be living on the edge, you can do it. But not
Yes.
because somehow it has to give you an identity.
Absolutely.
If I have my BMW or my Jaguar, or if I live in this house, not because it becomes part of your identity. We get our identity from God.
Yes.
The relationship we have with God and the relationship we have with others.
Absolutely.
My husband often says, when we die and we go and we meet the Lord, He doesn't care what you did for a living, how much money you made, where you lived. He cares about, did you love God and did you love other people? That's what's most important for the Lord.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. I've heard it said before that it's okay to have wealth, but it's not okay for wealth to have you.
Correct.
And then I also heard it said before that, money is a wonderful servant. It can serve a lot of
Correct.
noteworthy purposes and bring provision to our lives and to our families, but it's a horrible master.
Correct. And
Yeah.
you become in bondage
In
to
bondage to it.
And hence the stress and the pressure to maintain everything. And then what happens in
Absolutely.
the end when you die, it's all left behind.
It's so true. That's so beautiful. Now, let me ask you this. A lot of people say that art and television is actually more of a reflection of the paradigm of the times. So is Hollywood telling us how to live, or are they reflecting how many people are already living?
I think possibly a combination of both. But I don't want Hollywood to be telling me how to live, me and my household. So we're very careful with that. In our household, as a matter of fact, the children do not watch any television Monday to Friday, and then it's monitored on the weekend. Their goal is to focus on relationships, on their studies. They attend a youth group, and obviously on their relationship with God.
That's
So
wonderful.
we're very much in charge of that. And it's
Yes.
up to every, household and every parent to do the same thing.
Absolutely. It starts with that family nucleus.
Correct. And like I said, it's
Yes.
a combination of both telling us how, but also reflecting of how we are, living.
Absolutely, beautifully and wonderfully expressed. Now, moving from reality TV to the reality a lot of people are living, stress is a serious issue, isn't it? It's making people sick. It's breaking up relationships. It's aging a lot of us, and I really truly believe that is killing a lot of people as well. And I'm sure there's probably some research that can back up my sense. I actually have friends who are high-powered businessmen and businesswomen who have had to go to the hospital because of stress-related anxieties and the physical reaction that they had to that stress-related anxiety. Do you see those type of situations in your practice?
Yes, what we usually end up seeing is the referral that a physician has made to us, saying that this patient has a physical basis for their stress, but it's much more psychological, and possibly also here in the South spiritual, because we're more open to talk about the spirit here. 90% of, they were saying that 90% of medical issues are stress related. Therefore, there's going to be a referral to see a clinician. God has created us to be mind, body, and spirit. We have an equilibrium when everything is functioning very well. When one of them gets off kilter, it's going to impact the other and everything. So what ends up happening, people come to us and say, my physician told me I'm dealing with this situation, but it's based on the stress. Let's look at the stress in my life and make the changes. They're finding that too much stress on the body is going to compromise your immune system. Therefore, you're going to be more susceptible to illnesses. The same thing with high blood pressure. There's a stress-related root to it, which also impacts and can have coronary heart issues, and we're seeing an increase in that in our society.
So that old colloquial phrase, "I worry myself sick," is actually a reality. We
Correct.
can worry ourselves sick.
Correct.
We can be stressed to the point of sickness.
Correct.
You know, that fascinates me so much, just to think that an emotion can have a physical manifestation, that we can have a physical a reaction to an actual emotion.
Correct, because the interconnectedness of the mind, the body, and also of the spirit. And it also has an impact on your spirit, where if you have a lot of stress and distraction in life, you're going to find a disconnect in your spiritual life. So there's such a
Wow.
connection there, and that is how we have been created.
Zoe, I tell you, in the past, there's been plagues that plagued societies. Like in the 14th century, 14th century Europe dealt with the bubonic plague.
Correct.
And there's been centuries thereafter that dealt with the plagues of pneumonia.
Correct.
And other things. It seems to me, when I look at the impact that stress and depression is having on our society, to me it's like a silent killer, like a silent plague. And it's harder to identify than the bubonic plague was because of its stealthiness.
Correct.
And that makes it all the more dangerous. Do you agree?
I fully agree. It definitely is a very silent, subtle killer, but very ever-present, the way it manifests itself. We are seeing more people who are just striving, pushing themselves beyond their limits, once again, have to make a lot of money, have to have a certain lifestyle, what I call lifestyle, just doing everything they can to achieve that, putting pressure on their relationship with God, putting pressure on the relationship with other people, putting pressure on themselves. So we're seeing that more and more. Individuals come to us with depression, with anxiety, with irritability, with all of these symptoms that they obviously have to, get care for. But then we also want to go to the source and say, hey, where is this coming from? Where is the root of this? That's your symptom might be your depression, but where is this coming from? And is the client willing to let go and make the changes of what I call the lifestyle?
And a lot of your counterparts in the world of counseling and therapy, a lot of times choose to answer these needs or supply this demand in a medicinal way.
Correct.
So we're seeing like a lot of antidepressants becoming very, very popular, and other types of drugs, that have been on the advent in recent years. How do you feel about medicinal remedies for stress and depression?
I don't think that on its own a medicinal remedy would be appropriate, because it's basically dealing with a symptom. I think a combination of medication, psychopharmacology if necessary, with therapy, as well as spirit growth in God, is much more important and will help a client deal with their stress. Because symptoms are very profound sometimes, and we have to address the symptom. Let's get to the source. Let's understand what is going on, and let's direct the client into their spiritual and prayer life as well. So a combination of all three is much more effective than just self-medicating or whatever medication.
And so typically in a counseling session, you will touch on all of those aspects.
I will ask, have you had a physical? Are you on medication? For what reason? Who is your psychiatrist? Who's providing the medication? How can I collaborate with him or her? Then we do the therapeutic piece and also the spiritual piece as well. But that's to say, not everyone though needs medication who's dealing with stress. But if your symptoms are so high that we cannot get you, we cannot deal with what's going on organically to get to the source, we would have to, have a client obviously see a psychiatrist.
And 15 plus years practicing, as you were mentioning earlier, I'm sure you've seen a plethora of testimonies of how prayer and reflection became like the release valve, to the soul in light of all the stress and the pressures and the anxieties that we have. So tell me about some of the testimonies.
What I have seen is when people come to meet with us, their spiritual life has been impacted as well.
Wow.
And because there's a disconnect there, because they're struggling, there's pressure to live, like I say, the lifestyle or whatever they're choosing. And some of the testimonies recently with young couples, and I've been very impressed with them, is that, once they come in for stress-related issues and we explore that and we give it a place, we give it a name, if they have to do their psychopharmacology as well, they come to the understanding and they tell me, Zoe, we've realized we're making changes in our profession, or we're going to, make a change in our lifestyle. We're going to sell this home that we can barely afford and we're going to go into another home, or we're going to just make certain changes that are not adding the pressure in us. And that's really, my spirit jumps for joy when I see that, because I'm thinking, you're getting it. They're growing through their church, they're growing through their small groups, they're growing through their relationship with their God, and they're hearing from him as per what God expects of them.
Absolutely. That's just wonderful. Your words are giving us hope.
And another thing I would also encourage, for the people who are watching this, is take a day of rest. 6 days labor, 1 day take a full rest. Do nothing. Sit with your family, sit with your friends, break bread together, and just rest your body. You would be surprised how well you're going to do the other 6 days for work.
Wow. So you are giving our viewers a license to take a day to just veg and
absolutely
relax.
Did it yesterday.
Did you? How was it?
It was wonderful.
Yes.
Our little Jay was complaining he wanted to go shopping, and I said, no, this is a day of rest.
Yes.
The temptation is there to say, hey, why not? But absolutely not, because we have a busy week ahead of us. My husband and myself, even the children, took the day of rest.
Oh, that's amazing.
But we have to be so conscious of it
Right.
and aware of it, and keep telling ourselves, Sunday is the Lord's day, we will go to church, and we're taking it easy. And then we're ready for the rest of the week.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. I am humbled to be here as well.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
yes.
Pleasure to have met you.
Well, it has been an absolute delight. It's a pleasure to have met you as well, Zoe. And I truly believe that your words will leave a lasting impression with our guests, or with our
Amen.
viewers. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, my friends, I certainly hope that conversation with Zoe was as good for your soul as it was for mine. Now, ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, get ready for the interview that you have been waiting for. My friend and original king of comedy, D.L. Hewley. Well, I tell you, from our Twitter debates and discussions, this is what I say about you, and I feel it even stronger. More than a celebrity, more than a comedian, I just get a deep sense that you are a fine man. And it's an honor getting to know you.
Likewise, man.
Yeah.
This is what I'll say. You didn't disappoint me. Your build is advertised. I'm glad, because sometimes
Coming from you, that means a lot.
Right. Well, coming from anybody, that means a lot. But I tell you what, most people are what they pretend to be. Like most people, perception-wise, what they pretend to be. You're everything I thought you were.
Genuineness is a beautiful characteristic, isn't it? And I pray.
It's a rare characteristic.
Rare. This will be an unforgettable episode. It surely will. All the absolute best to you, and I look forward to seeing you there.
Savoring and serving, experience the best of life.